Hello there, welcome back. Happy Wednesday, my friends. I hope you are all well. I am doing fantastic. Just a quick reminder, if you are in recess, you can download your guide for this video by clicking on the link below. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's been highly requested for some time now, and that is the topic of anxiety. Now, disclaimer, if you are looking for kind of this in-depth scientific study into anxiety, this is probably not the video for you. Today, I'm just sharing my recent experiences with it and my quick tips on how to move through anxiety in the simplest of terms. So if you are down with what I'm rolling out, keep on watching. So you should know that I'm not an anxious person in general. I don't have an anxiety disorder or anything of that nature. However, I am a human being with the capacity to feel anxious at times. If and when I did feel anxious, it tended to be pretty moderate in the past. That was up until this past year when I had 2 bouts, we'll call it, of severe anxiety, which has been really interesting. The first bout was triggered by an ocular migraine that came out of nowhere. I know, really strange. I had 2 migraine headaches previously, but never an ocular migraine. That was a whole other beast. So for those of you that don't know, there's the potential when you have a migraine to go through 4 different phases of it. I'm not going to go into the specific details, but here's the Twitter version. Once I experienced the aura, which is the first phase of an ocular migraine, it's where your vision gets all distorted. I was at UPS and all of a sudden I was seeing 2 of the man helping me and I was like, this is it. This is how I'm going to die. That lasted about 30 minutes or so. And then I went through all the other phases, the actual headache and the brain fog, etc. But after the initial aura phase, my brain was so swollen that it struggled to keep up with my vision. I mean, this was going on for a good 7 to 10 days, no joke. So I'd go to a public place like Target, because duh, and it felt like my brain was working overtime to keep up with all of my senses. And it caused me to feel really overstimulated. And at that point, I didn't even know really what was going on. I hadn't yet seen a doctor. So it led to this state of panic and anxiety to the point where I could not literally leave my house because I would be on the verge of a panic attack. It was bananas. I finally went to a specialist where he ruled it as an ocular migraine, and then my general doctor ended up prescribing the anxiety meds for kind of the side effects that were happening. I didn't take them because like in my mind, I was like, no, I'm gonna try to get through this discomfort without it. I still filled the prescription as kind of a backup, but it just sat in my medicine cabinet through the whole experience. I had to then retrain my brain slowly by taking like 10-minute walks, etc., and really had to manage my thoughts and emotions around what was going on. So that was my first experience with anxiety, which I know sounds crazy. And it was a very long and uncomfortable one. So that was last spring. And then once that was over and done, I had another experience that was not triggered by a migraine. Nathan was out for the night and I had gotten into bed, and all of a sudden I felt this wave of anxiety, which then led to panic. I felt like I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I was so uncomfortable. My heart was beating super fast. And yep, I felt that sense of impending doom. Like it was the end. I was going to die once again. I remember just sitting in my bed, not understanding why it was happening. I kept thinking, this is crazy. Like I've been totally fine, not stressed about anything. And my attempt at trying to investigate it and find the root cause was ultimately my way of trying to resist the feeling. And of course, that just makes it worse. I was up pretty much all night and just really uncomfortable. Well, the next morning, I got up and I was like, well, that was weird. Like, that was a fluke. It must have been a fluke. Of course it was a fluke. Sat back down to do some work, and just a few hours later, I was overcome with yet again anxiety. And I just curled up in a ball in my bed. I finally gave in, took the medicine that my doctor prescribed, and felt better within the hour. And then, because I didn't feel bad, I just moved on, which I think is so interesting, right? And it's something that we all do with medication. We put this Band-Aid on the problem and then we move on, versus really exploring the problem and solving it at its root. So then 2 days later, I jumped on a call with one of my coaches, and I got on the call not at all intending to talk about the anxiety attack that just happened that weekend, because again, my brain was like, that was a fluke, not a big deal. So it was not on my mind. Didn't even think to bring it up on my coaching call. Instead, I got on the call and she was like, okay, what do you want to be coached on today? And I was like, well, I said, I want to be coached on always being in a hurry. Like, I've always been the person to get things done and get things done fast. And I have this huge sense of urgency 24/7. So we started talking about that, and she's asking me questions, as coaches do. And she's like, okay, well, when you think I need to get this done, I have to get this done quickly, what do you feel? And I said, I feel panicked. And she said, okay, and when you feel panicked, what do you do? And I said, well, I overwork and get things done in a hurry. And all of a sudden, that light bulb went off inside of me, and I said, actually, this past weekend, I had some major anxiety. I said, I didn't know why it was happening or where it was coming from, but oh man, this is it. So I want to pause there so that I can take you through the awareness and the method of working through it. Notice the thought that caused my feeling of panic. The thought was, I need to get this done. I have to get this done quickly. That thinking is what caused me to feel panic. And instead of feeling through the feeling of panic, I resisted it and attempted to avoid it altogether because it feels bad, right? By overworking. Guys, this is so good. This is how anxiety is born. Anxiety is nothing more than the resistance of another feeling. So in my case, it was panic. For others, it might be stress, anger, sadness, embarrassment, whatever it is. If we don't feel through one emotion, it turns itself into anxiety. Anxiety is a secondary emotion. Now, for me, my drug of choice to resist feeling panicked was to work. For some people, it's drinking, eating, watching TV, drugs, shopping, etc. Instead of just sitting with the negative emotion and feeling through it, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and knowing that it won't kill you to do so. So instead of sitting with my panic and letting it pass through, I resisted it by working, and then it turned into anxiety. So it's so important to know A, the thought that's causing the negative feeling, and that can be identified through working with a coach or through your own self-coaching. And B, what the negative feeling looks and feels like in your body. And C, you want to feel it fully through your body, despite how uncomfortable it may be. Otherwise, it'll only fester and get stronger. So when I was on my call with my coach, once we had the thinking that had caused my anxiety, well, my panic and then anxiety, we could then work through it. You want to question it, explore it, and choose a better feeling thought on purpose. But we don't want to neglect the feeling of anxiety altogether. Instead, you want to ask yourself, how does it feel? Where do I feel it in my body? Is it in my chest, my stomach? What physical part of my body do I feel it? What does it feel like? And then you want to describe it. What color is it? What texture is it? For me personally, I feel it in my chest. It feels heavy, it's red, and it's bumpy. Taking the time to paint a picture for what anxiety looks and feels like for you and almost turning it into this tangible thing is everything. Because when it comes up in the future, if you weren't able to catch the thought that's causing it in the first place and the first emotion, you can recognize it for exactly what it is. You're like, okay, this feeling is familiar. This is anxiety in my body. I'm not gonna die. I literally cannot die from a feeling. It's just a feeling. And I have the capacity to feel through this feeling. So from there, you sit quietly, you take deep breaths in and out, and you feel it pass through your body. When you allow yourself to just sit with the feeling and breathe, you can physically feel it move through. Like we did this exercise on the call, and I felt it move through my chest, my arms, my stomach, and down through my legs. Now, your brain will continue to spew out the thoughts that created the anxiety in the first place as an attempt to keep you there and keep you spinning. So you just want to simply acknowledge it. I hear you, brain, loud and clear. I'm just having the thought that ... And then from there, you can focus back into your breathing until again, the feeling has passed through. Now, sometimes this will take as little as 10 seconds, you guys, 30 seconds, sometimes a minute. The most important thing is that you recognize it and not resist it, because what we resist really does persist. Recognize it, sit with it, feel through it, and then work through the thoughts that caused it in the first place. And also know that it's just a feeling and you won't die. Learning how to manage your thoughts and in turn your emotions is what I do all day long. So if you are not in recess school, get your butt in here. You get weekly coaching by me, trainings, and so many other goodies. The link is down in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Hey, if you found this video useful, you've gotta check out Recess. It's where you get access to all my trainings, YouTube guides, and the best part, weekly coaching with me. If you are ready to level up with the rest of my students, go to www.recessschool.com. See you there.